Wait for it. Sega! Oh, there goes the sound of a childhood spent indoors with the curtains shut. Went outside one time, fell out a tree, landed on my face. Not doing that again. Hello, gaming! Goodbye, other people. Welcome, lovelies. Welcome back, finally, to Sanctuary Sunday. That most hallowed and inviolable finale to the week where the dark tendrils of the horror genre recoil from the heaven-like glorious, granting us a precious day's respite from its shaky flashlight mechanics and extended wardrobe cowering sequences. Today, we're embarking on a super sneakered stroll through an ironclad classic, its status and quality irrefutable to all but the most deranged and rabid of the Nintendo fanboy death cult. It's Sonic the Hedgehog, developed in-house by Sega's own Team Sonic, formerly known as Sega AM8, the extermination squad formed to peel Nintendo's fingers piggy by piggy from their grip on the video game industry, and published by the powerhouse studio itself in the June of 1991. Opening uppercut of trivia straight to the liver. Pow! Did you know that the iconic Sega credit screen, a mere 2 seconds long, took up an eighth of the total space on the Sonic the Hedgehog 4MB game cartridge? Actually replaced a sound test screen that Team Sonic were working on, but never got the time to fully implement, where Sonic, and I'm quoting the game's lead programmer Yuji Naka directly here, would have been breakdancing while a Sonic band played the game music. Breakdancing. I mean, is it possible to be too down with the kids? You know, I can't tell you that. I'm 31 years old, for Christ's sake. I can already feel the sedimentary layer that the archaeologists are going to exhume my bones from forming around me, but we do know that at least one of the members of this legendary Sonic band was a crocodile keyboard player who later got a gig as Vector the Crocodile in Knuckles Chaotix for the 32X. As for the other animals, well, I'm afraid they were taken to a shelter and destroyed. Sorry to have to tell you that, Crusaders. It wasn't even quick, pentobarbital isn't cheap. No, I'm afraid they were placed inside a rusty laundry press that couldn't even complete a full revolution of the mangle, such was the wretched state of it, and so the executioner, a local baker's son, so haunted by the blood-soaked spectacle of screeching furry panic that he had engineered that he shot himself the very next day, the bullet ricocheting out the back of his head and through a window, inexplicably detonating the gas tank of a bus carrying the winners of the world's kindest nuns competition. The executioner was forced to half-flatten the miserable creatures to death to stop them from escaping while he finished the job with a golf cart. Barry the brass band Badger in particular had to be run over 17 times and shunted into the wall for 4.5 minutes until the wall itself collapsed on top of him. He gurgled in agony until the next morning when the chap who owned the exotic pet shop 2 doors down did him a kindness and released a gang of cobras into the debris to finish him off. So, all things said and done, a natural death. I'm only kidding. Wipe the tears from your rosacea flushed little cheeks. That only happened to the rabbit. The bass player Monkey and the intense chicken guitarist both went on to lead full lives as 2 of Sonic's lower build adversaries in the animated Saturday morning kids cartoon Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog as Coconuts and Scratch. That rabbit is dead as shit though. Sorry. You know the whole stereotype about how no girls want to date the drummer of the band. Well, families want to adopt the drummer of the band in animal form, even less. I won't linger on an excruciating blow-by-blow account of his death, but to summarise, the shelter really did the kindest job they could with the materials they had to hand. So they crucified him and launched hornets' nests at his face with a mini trebuchet. It was fast, compared to walking to Mars. Here he is, the cheeky fucking sausage. Oh, Dr. Robotnik, the battles we've had over the years, eh? You amateur porn directing accidentally killed at least a couple of aspiring actresses having weird strangle sex on the casting couch looking motherfucker. Beats him and he makes his sex face and runs away. But he always comes back with every conceivable weaponization of his hover car, the Eggmobile, every possible upgrade, utensil or death-dealing apparatus that you could feasibly imagine. Except an AK-47, because, let's be honest, that would do the fucking trick, wouldn't it? Wouldn't even need to attach it to the Eggmobile, just turn up, hover higher than Sonic can jump to get at him and just pepper the smarmy little bastard with Chinese steel cores at 600 rounds per minute. 4 times if that furry turd Tails tries to be a hero. But alright, let's not get ahead of ourselves criticising the good doctor's sub-wily coyote schemes this early on in the day, because as trivial and pedantic as this might seem to many of you watching, I still haven't explained how to actually play Sonic the Hedgehog. I know, alright, might as well be explaining how to shit in a toilet instead of your pants to most of you, but consider this, Crusaders. Somewhere, out there, there's entire generations of teenagers now breaching that traumatic barrier into adulthood who may well have never played a classic Sonic the Hedgehog game. And by classic, I mean anything that didn't contribute to cramming the franchise with third-party Korean bootleg toy line characters and ugly as cock monster toys 3D filth, so basically, anything from Sonic and Knuckles backwards. And before you start, don't. I'm not getting into it, not today. This video is a celebration, alright? This video is a joyful remembrance of a time of wonders where you could play a Sonic the Hedgehog game without sitting through 10 minutes of atrocious fucking cutscenes, where the reason you're not spin dashing around the place doing loop-the-loops and ripping up Mobius strips is because we got to see Blaze the Cat monologuing about Silver the Cockhog having a fucking panic attack over his abandonment issues. Like, where did this petting zoo of sad bastards come from? I want to smash robot animals with my head while rotating in the fetal position at the speed of fucking sound. Not listen to a bunch of garbage woodland animals cry about their personality disorders. No. Today, we will be focusing on that pure and trusting elation I felt when I first got my Sega Mega Drive for my 7th birthday, bundled with the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Now my parents had told the rest of my family to get me some other games too, because I've been banging on about the Mega Drive all year, so I also wound up with Streets of Rage, Quackshot, Chuck Rock, and Castle of Illusion. And I can't remember ever being so fucking happy. I honestly remember my mum hovering by the phone while I was ripping the paper off the damn things, and I'm almost certain that was because she thought I was gonna have a heart attack or just lose my mind and start attacking people on the street. You'd have to call either an ambulance or animal control or whatever. Today's playthrough is about that kind of unrestrained childish ecstasy that you only got from possessing things that the TV adverts had spent 6 months to a year convincing you that if you didn't get it, you were an utter piece of shit, and your parents were low-born paupers who combed your neighbor's trash for food at night. I mean, that was especially true with Sega. You gotta remember that the console I had before the Mega Drive was the NES, and I'm not gonna go into how ugly the advertising war got between them and Nintendo back in the early 90s today, but to briefly summarise, Sega's entire ad campaign for the Genesis was built around calling Nintendo a bunch of mentally backward children who couldn't tell their own dicks from their dinner, let alone release a console that wasn't a complete insult to anybody in the same room as it. So I think there was a point I was afraid that somebody would look through my window, see that I owned an NES, and the next time I went outside, they'd just be waiting to run me over in their car like the human vermin Sega had convinced me that I was, you know? So when I got that Mega Drive, it wasn't just a matter of gaming pride, it was somebody peeling the fucking yellow Star of David off my jumper, you know? I could show my face again, I could go buy milk without a motorcycle gang of Sega goons throwing bricks at me. It was the best of times, and by God, it makes me sad that there are kids whose first experience with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise wasn't this game, wasn't Sonic 2, or 3, or and Knuckles, wasn't even Tails Sky Patrol. It was a rancorous cancer sandwich that had the unmitigated fucking gall to name itself directly after its venerated ancestor before officially moving the franchise canon into a territory normally reserved for the kind of people whose genitals smell like store brand snacks because they don't clean the Cheeto dust off their fingers before they masturbate, by inserting prolonged scenes of sexual tension between a blue-talking hedgehog and a decidedly underage-looking teenage girl. I'm sure you've seen it, even if you haven't played the game. I will elaborate on it no further, other than to say, how dare you, gentlemen? How bloody dare you? You know, I grew up thinking I was at least tolerant, if not fully embracive of most cultures, but the shit that's in Sonic 06, well, you can just get back on that leaky refugee raft and paddle right the fuck on back to Japan with that illegal wank flappery foreigner. So, for those ill-fated few who suffered such a childhood, God, I just want to hug you and tell you it's gonna be alright, I really do. Here is how Sonic the Hedgehog used to be. Just look for a second, drink it in. My God, it used to be something, didn't it? I probably picked the wrong moment here actually. Look at the ground for a bit and then look back up when I'm out of the bonus stage. Let me set a scene for you with exactly the level of storytelling prowess and detail that the game manual did. Which is to say practically none, unless you were reading the Japanese instructions, in which case you can upgrade that to semi-passionate. Dr. Ivo Robotnik, or Dr. Eggman in Japan. They wouldn't straighten that out until I think Sonic Adventure in 1998, where he just called himself both, because, you know, why the fuck not? Who doesn't want two names? In fact, from now on, sometimes I'll be the Fragnostic, sometimes I'll be the Slaytheist, or the Neo-Geo-Vangelicist, or the ZX Spectrum Jew. Gotta watch out, shit's gonna get crazy round here. So Dr. Ivo Robotnik is stuffing innocent animals into killer robot bodies. Doesn't tell you why in the American or European versions, you just kinda left to assume that this motherfucker had your template serial killer abusive childhood, made a hobby out of augmenting the family cat with his alcoholic father's toolbox before he was finally shuttled off to foster care for replacing poor Mr. Whisker's urethra with a blowtorch, granting him a temporary advantage in battle, but ultimately robbing him of 90% of his skin and fur. Plus his scratch post that burnt down with the rest of the house. But Japan went ahead and threw your drunkards drop kebabs worth of meat for the story by expanding Robotnik's plot beyond turn all the animals into robots and then, fuck knows, race them I guess. Robotnik's actually established a base on South Islands, the place we're currently pelting around, while he searches for the 7 legendary Chaos Emeralds, which grant energy to all living things, but can also be handily repurposed into devastating nuclear and laser-based weaponry. World domination is sure to be a baby step from success should he get them, and you can't have that now, can you? So off Sonic goes to jump on the fat fucker's head until he says uncle. Now, as far as navigating your way to Robotnik's fortress goes, you're either going to be running, jumping, or rolling. Sonic's a pretty uncomplicated animal outside of his fashion requirements. I mean, I get the sneakers, alright? You spend a great deal of time sprinting about the place so fast that your legs literally form a cyclical vortex, as if they've been wrenched free from their sockets and are now flapping around in full horrifying revolutions parallel to your fucking hips like a pair of wheels on some godless Cenobite mammal chariot. You need a little protection for your feet there, sure. But what's with the fucking gloves, man? You afraid of germs? You bust open an animal robot, free the adorable little squirrel inside, hops up and tries to give you a hug to say thank you, and you're like, "Oh Christ, don't touch me, you disgusting fucking creature! Son of a bitch! Its tail brushed my mouth. Oh god, its tail hair right on my lips. I can't get it off. I'm gonna. No, nothing's coming. Nothing. Oh, it's giving me fucking Lyme disease. I know it has. Look, does my spinal cord look inflamed to you? Does it? Feels like I'm carrying a chest of drawers around on my fucking back. I'm sweating here. I'm dripping. Look at me. You fucking squirrel. You stupid little bastard. Robotnik's gonna get all the Chaos Emeralds now, and I'm gonna bleed out and get incinerated in a plastic bag by some shithead from the council. You've done it now. But far more likely a reason, one would imagine, is that Sonic would look vaguely disturbing with ungloved human-esque hands and feet. A great deal more so with vicious little yellow-nailed hedgehog paws. His classic trademark finger wag at the title screen would look less like a brash display of rebellious attitude than it would a sinister promise to burrow into your skull through your eye socket while you sleep. So, gloves, yes, excellent. Although, Do note how fast Sonic flies away from the captive animal tank after he pops it open. Thanks, Sonic! Ah, don't breathe on me! Heading on into the Spring Yard Zone now. Now, this was actually the first set of stages to be designed and completed in the whole of the game. You'll notice as you play through the franchise that there's a ton of callbacks to this zone theme, and in particular with its bumpers, springs and pinball machine aesthetic. Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2, Carnival Night Zone from Sonic 3, second round of Sonic CD Collision Chaos, and so on and so forth. May well be the most recycled theme in the whole of the series. Besides the first zone, Green Hill, of course. Every single fucking Sonic game has some laughably minor tweak of the Green Hill Zone in it. Spring Yard was originally going to be Sparkling Zone, and be a whole ton closer to the Neon House of Sin we wound up with in Sonic 2. Kind of abstract Vegas Strip casino with glowing signs and stars in the background, but a few of the design elements bled over into the game's fifth area, Starlight Zone, so it would have wound up looking a little too similar. Lots of lethal spiky balls and whips fixed around this hellhole too. And sadly the closest the series ever gets to Sonic visiting the Sex Dungeon Zone, where sure you can destroy the enemies, but the animals inside them are never truly free. Not after the things they've seen. You may have noticed that South Island is a fairly resource-rich place by way of all the solid fucking gold spinning in mid-air. This is literally the island that the Spanish Empire were genociding a path through entire Mesoamerican civilizations to find. And Sonic, well, he's a hero, sure he is. But at the end of the day, he just wants to fall asleep on a big bastard stack of money like the rest of us, so he'll go ahead and grab just as many of them there golden rings as you can throw him at. Rings have three purposes in this game. First and most immediately important is that they stop you from being killed outright when you inevitably crash into an enemy, obstacle, spike pit, or bugger knows what. If you take a hit, you fly back and all your collected rings come spilling out of you like you're some kind of beautiful mutant leprechaun that bleeds riches and is routinely chased about on whimsical adventures by a particularly mean drunk called Kenny O'Neill, who wants to beat you fucking senseless and buy himself a castle. Doesn't matter if you got 1 ring or 20, they'll protect you just the same, except it's obviously easier to grab back some of the rings that you drop if there's more of them, so it's exceptionally hard to actually die in Sonic the Hedgehog, seeing as you can pretty much instantly pick your armor straight back up the second it gets knocked off of you. The only things that the rings can't protect you against is being crushed, drowning, being murdered by the level's time limit expiring, and falling down a bottomless pit, but you know, that's true enough to life, really, isn't it? You can pay someone not to kill you, but you can't slip the ocean a cool 20 and ask it not to swamp your lungs with fish piss. You know, while it's fairly uncommon to outright die in Sonic the Hedgehog, you sure don't need much practice actually getting hit, which I've always found to be massively contradictory to a game that pretty much sells itself on you playing as a cartoon animal that can run around at ludicrous speeds. Now, you see me as I play here just kind of edging through a lot of the sections rather than full-on sprinting, because there really is something to smash your fucking beak open on for pretty much every 40 meters of ground that you cover here, which is my one major irritation of the game, to be honest. The Team Sonic handled this a hell of a lot better in the immediate sequels. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 had some exhilarating stretches where you'd be cannonballing through multiple loop-the-loops and Mobius strips, almost faster than the play area could keep up with you, but here it's still working its kinks out from your average platformer action template, and that generally means if you keep your thumb on the D-pad for more than a few seconds, you're more than likely going to take a wallop from someone. Now, if you manage to grab 100 rings at any point in a level, you'll get yourself an extra life too, but the most interesting use for the rings is that they buy you into the special stages that you're seeing me desperately flinging myself around in here. Come on now. Give me the sweet, beautiful, there we go. Happy Christmas. And peace to all men. Sonic got them all! Your mother fiddling right, it did. That glimmering rainbow of 6 little treasures all in a row there are the Chaos Emeralds that Dr. Robotnik is after, at least in the Japanese story. Now, they don't give you anything special in-game, not in this installment anyway, but grabbing all 6 of the Chaos Emeralds from the special stages is the only way to get the good ending here in Sonic the Hedgehog. Should you have the amateurish impertinence to finish the game without collecting them all, Dr. Robotnik will appear before you, cackling and juggling the emeralds that you missed, taunting you to try again. And I really grew to hate that fucking screen as a child, let me tell you. My first time through, I had no idea what kind of shit the game was pulling on me. See, in order to even get into a special stage at all, you need to finish one of the zone acts holding at least 50 rings. Can't be a third act either, can't be an act 3, because besides the Scrap Brain Zone, they've always got a boss fight, and you need to be able to knock the signpost round at the end of the stage and leap through the giant golden ring that only appears if you're holding the required 50 smaller rings to be transported there at all. Now, I never did that my first time in because I played through the whole damn thing crashing into more hostile animals than Ray Charles on Safari, so when I finally beat the game and was rewarded with a scene of that buttery fat bastard Robotnik doing circus tricks with a bunch of gemstones I didn't even know existed, calling me a no-skill Bleacher League bomb. Well, it pissed me off! Fucking story in the manual didn't say shit about collecting emeralds, just said the obese lunatic was cramming animals inside an army of robot death machines and I had to put a bloody stop to it. And I did that, you know? So what gives you the right to stand? Ooh, I tell you, I was glad to wipe the smirk off his hairy sodden bean pit, I was. The special stages take a wee bit of practice to get used to. I think the first couple of times you wind up in one, your brain is inescapably overwhelmed by the sudden appearance of a spinning top-down Technicolor maze that revolves over an ever-changing psychedelic pastiche of fish and doves while a dreamy lullaby and melody noodles away in the background. You do kind of feel that perhaps Sonic's mind has finally snapped and this is all some kind of soothing, stress-triggered hallucination to cushion his psyche from stark reality, in which he sits cross-legged in a lava-filled cavern gazing off into space as he slowly tucks into a baby walrus. Because the scenery is pretty intense all around, isn't it? These zones, I mean, surely this is what Lovecraft envisioned when he wrote about the forbidden geographies that would send men mad just by clapping eyes on them. You know, I have no trouble picturing a trepidatious academic in the fashion of the 1920s on his knees before a 5,500-foot Mobius loop in the Green Hills zone, foaming at the mouth and clawing at his eyes. Bleh! Robotnik Vertagen! Oh, Jesus Christ. Welcome to the Labyrinth Zone. God fucking damn it. Does anybody actually like the fucking Labyrinth Zone? Or any underwater section of the Sonic games for that matter? This sunken cesspit is an absolute disgrace, but it does begin a long-standing mechanic in the franchise, one of sheer panic-inducing horror I can't help but respect it for. Don't be fooled by the idyllic music with that funky plodding bassline, Crusaders. The Labyrinth Zone is underwater survival horror at its finest. Here we go! Ah! We're gonna drown like paraplegic monkeys! Oh my fucking... sweet air! Oh god! I'm alive! I'm alive! Thank you, Poseidon, thank you. Lovelies, nothing in the 16-bit era even comes close to replicating the fear of drowning in the Labyrinth Zone. And what's worse, happens all the goddamn time. Oh fuck, here it comes again! No! No! Come back out! Come back! Sonic can hold his breath here for something like 18 seconds from the moment he enters the water. Now, the whole time you're under there, you'll hear these little warning bells that are counting off the air you've got left in your lungs in 5-second intervals. And after the third chime, that terror-inducing imitation Jaws theme jumps you, and from there, you got to count to 5 to either get the fuck out the drink, or find yourself an air bubble, which will reset your air counter. Fail to do either of those things, and you drown, which is just mortifying to a child. Like, I can't even fathom who thought putting something this abruptly disturbing in a game like this would be a good idea. I mean, even if it wasn't completely mortifying, you know, even without the distress that making a child responsible for slowly suffocating their new hero in a lonely flooded ruin carries with it, the Labyrinth Zone is the epitome of the anti-speed problem in the game that I discussed earlier. Sonic moves through the water like a one-legged man trying to cycle through the fucking blob. He takes forever to build up any momentum at all, and when he does, there's a massive delay while he slows back down, so it's very easy to overshoot platforms and ledges, of which there are many in the Labyrinth Zone. And because it's such an interminable marathon, I think this is the first point in the game that the 3-act zone feels excessive. You know, they'd fixed it down to 2 acts per zone right after this one in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I guess another positive change in that game was that they did away with exclusively underwater based zones too. You know, not that it stopped them from flooding lower areas of other stages as punishment for falling off the pathways, but god damn it. That works fine, because that's what moving through water feels like in the fucking Labyrinth Zone. Feels like you're being penalised for some hidden transgression. I didn't choose to come here, you son of a bitch. Now this was originally going to be the second stage of the game, until somebody on the design team remembered they were trying to create a fun, enjoyable rival to Super Mario Bros. And not drive thousands of children to suicide. If you ever want to see what sort of ironic hell would await your soul if you did finally snap and take your life while trying to beat the Labyrinth Zone, be sure to check out the Nick Arcade prototype for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, Nick Arcade was one of the legions of gaming orientated game shows that the woodwork was sweating out back in the early 90s. This one running for the better part of I think a year and a half, and while a lot of the games it featured on there were created exclusively for the show, they'd occasionally drop you a real one in there too. Christ knows how they managed to get awarded the honour of showcasing the very first Sonic the Hedgehog 2 prototype ever released, but it contained a horrifying vision of the Labyrinth Zone that looked like somebody had carpet bombed the chemical plant zone into the sea. You appear to claw blindly through the wreckage of this terrible attack, appearing only briefly to fall from a fissure in the debris and straight into a vat of broken girders and nerve agents which kills you immediately. Or at least it would if you could ever truly die here in Shin Labyrinth Zone, that most eternal maze draped in the midnight of the soul where even Christ will not tread, and so turns his daytime dramas up pretending not to hear your cries. Fun fact, Melissa Joan Hart of Sabrina the Teenage Witch fame was one of the very first, if not the first member of the public to ever play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Nick Arcade, and I have to say, aside from a poor showing at the end of her run trying to navigate a loop that the Nick Arcade host was too much of a shitbag to tell her how to spin dash through, she fucking killed it. But then can you expect any different from a witch? Witch! Last I heard she was doing one of those Christian interest movies that I can't even watch ironically, but you know, good luck to her. Good luck to her when she appears before God to explain the deeds of her younger self, conversing with talking animals and tearing bishops apart with her blood magic. That was Sabrina, wasn't it? That was the biographical one. You might have noticed as I've been making my way through this enchanted slough of an island that I've been occasionally breaking what look like small TVs or item boxes with my rotating hedgehog rage. Now, these have been called many different things throughout the Sonic franchise, but right here, they're known as video monitors, and fuck knows where they came from. They're all over the goddamn place. I guess all the cutesy-wootsy animals could only take the idyllic natural environment of South Island on its own merits for so long before they got bored and imported a shitload of TVs to watch the Kardashians or hardcore porn, or the crossover of the two that made them famous in the first place. Now don't take this as gospel because I honestly can't remember where I read it. Could swear it was a developer interview or something, but can't be sure. Long time ago. But I do recall reading that the monitors were placed around the island by Robotnik to keep an eye on things, which I guess makes sense. Not so much why smashing them rewards you with temporary invincibility. That seems like an odd punishment for vandalizing equipment, but hey, we are talking about a shithead that can't even kill a hedgehog wearing about as much armor as a high street sex attacker, so long have I wondered what the wall carvings in the Labyrinth Zone are actually meant to be. Especially the one that looks like a kind of screaming fish. You see him right there? What's the matter with him? Looks like he's watching his mother getting strangled right by an octopus. Alright, here's a boss fight that isn't actually really a boss fight. It's just an annoying fucking vertical obstacle course that Robotnik runs away from you in. You gotta beat the rising water to the top here. If you let it get too far over your head too soon, there's no air bubbles to help you out, so you will, in all probability, drown like a mafia snitch or a fat squirrel. Even though you don't need to, and I've certainly never managed to do this myself, it is apparently possible to defeat Robotnik as you're climbing the tunnel there if you manage to leather him 8 times. Although that was reduced to 3 in Sonic Mega Collection Plus that came out for the PS2 and Xbox. Here we are in the far less aggravating Starlight Zone. Whoa, I'm running the fuck backwards. How do you... The world's broken. There was something bad in the ancient water of the Labyrinth Zone. Swallowed too much of it. Sonic's got Cretaceous brain lurgy. Someone go over him with a strimmer, quick. It's the kindest way. A lot of floating platforms and wobbly staircases in the Starlight Zone, most of which are going to throw you down one of the stage's innumerable bottomless pits if you fudge your jumps. Although it's a place with a fairly simple layout, the difficulty is taking a solid tweak by stealing all your lamppost checkpoints away, so for one in Act 3 right before the boss fight, and you'll notice that you've only got 2 types of enemy in the Starlight Zone. Walking bombs you can't kill, but will prime themselves to explode and hurt you once you get too close, and a variant of those angry looking balls surrounded by smaller, spikier balls, such as their limited social circle. They'll be fought back in the Labyrinth Zone called Orbinauts. The difference is, these balls never chuck their spiky balls at you, so they just ball around with their balls spinning in balls of balls, 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 ballsy, balls, balls, balls. Don't blame me, that's exactly what it says on the design document. What animals are naturally occurring in this place? That's what I'm wondering. Like, yoppy badgers? This is where all the arsehole animals on the island live, I bet you. Smug little birds living in high-rises, just because they can, while the others all shiver in nests made of their own spit and shit over in the Green Hill Zone. No walrus needs an apartment, does it? This is... South Island clearly had problems before Robotnik came along. Because skyscrapers don't just grow out the fucking ground, do they? Somebody would have had to bulldoze down a good 100 or so square miles of woodland to put the Starlight Zone up. And you could argue that Robotnik did it, I guess, but why? Why would he? Same as the Spring Yard Zone, what's the fucking point of building that? He's here looking for Chaos Emeralds, how's he gonna make that any easier on himself by wasting 6.5 years knocking together a giant neon pinball machine? Doesn't add up, doesn't do the numbers for me, no. Tiny animals are to blame here, as they usually are. Now, while I'm whipping through this last part of the game, let's talk a little bit about how Sonic the Hedgehog came to be, because as I briefly alluded to earlier in my ravings about my childhood paranoia of being hung from a lamppost by an angry mob for owning an NES instead of a Sega console, this really is a massively important game in terms of how it almost single-handedly drop-kicked Nintendo down the market share mountain in the United States, and provided the real fuel that drove Sega's advertising war machine in the early 90s console wars. Before Sonic came along, Sega were looking for that golden mascot that Nintendo had in Mario. And their first proper attempt at it was Alex Kidd, who was met with just the most collective sigh of indifference. I like to consider Alex Kidd as the absolute best work of somebody with no imagination, you know. He was a monkey-faced boy with a mullet and big ears. He screamed like a little bitch whenever he got hurt, and even as a child, I could never really get past the incessant urge to uppercut him straight in the mouth. There was something listlessly victim-like about Alex Kidd that I'm sure was meant to be endearing, but it really made me want to beat the shit out of him and take his lunch money. And I mean, that was unfortunate because the first title he was in, Alex Kidd in Miracle World, was a really good fucking game for the time that was just lumbered with characters and mechanics that nobody outside of Japan was ever likely to warm to. The best example I could give you that there are the boss fights, which were literally luck-based rock, paper, scissors tournaments, as legitimately random as a blind guess in a real-life game of rock, paper, scissors. Now, if you lost, you died instantly and got kicked back to the start of the level. If you won, the boss just vanished in a puff of smoke, except for this one guy whose head wrenched itself off his fucking body in a fit of rage and attacked you. That I just about pissed on the carpet, let me tell you. But ultimately, nobody gave a shit about Alex Kidd and his line of games that just got steadily... Ah, pigs! Pigs live here, that makes sense. Steadily worse and worse right up until he was in this bizarre Shinobi crossover, which was actually kind of amazing in a hallucinogenic kind of way. We're in the Scrap-Brain Zone right here, Robotnik's industrial death factory fortress. Everybody you talk to mistakes this for the last zone in the game, but that honour goes to the imaginatively titled Final Zone, which is literally just the final boss fight and nothing else, and has exactly the same environment theming as Scrap-Brain Zone, but still, technically, its own zone. And my knowledge of minor gaming trivia technicalities from the early 90s is one very important component in the fragile psychological tower that allows me to feel superior to everyone else. So don't breathe on the tower. Don't even look at it. So with Alex Kidd about as financially viable as a flush-proof shit, Sega started up a company-wide competition across every branch and department it had to come up with a mascot to rival Mario. And they eventually settled on a character sketch by Naoto Oshima, one of the designers on the Phantasy Star series, which was a rabbit who could pick objects up with his ears and throw them at enemies. That got dropped out when the project's programmer, Yuji Naka, decided he wanted a faster, free-flowing kind of game where stopping to pick shit up off the floor every 2 seconds would break up the flow too much. Plus, they had noted the enjoyable simplicity of the control scheme from the Mario series, which they wanted to replicate and cut down to use just one action button plus the D-pad to navigate. Now with that limitation, both Naka and Oshima figured pretty quickly that the attack would have to double as the jump, and came up with the idea of having the player character curl into a ball to serve the purposes of both, an action which didn't fit their rabbit mascot particularly well, so down the toilet he went, and in came another couple of Oshima's early contest entries, an armadillo and a hedgehog. Ultimately, they decided that the spines of the hedgehog would give a greater illusion of speed and a more convincing attack threat than the defensive shell of an armadillo, so Oshima got to work refining his design, the first draft of which wasn't a world away from the finished product and was called Mr. Needle Mouse, the literal translation of the Japanese word for hedgehog. And Mr. Needle Mouse's design took on aspects of an eclectic range of American cultural phenomenons. The blue was pure company loyalty, the colour of the Sega logo itself. But the gloves, buckle and sneaker design came inspired from Michael Jackson, while the colour of the sneakers themselves were made red and white. The same colours worn by the world famous American portrayal of a character more beloved by children than any other, Santa Claus. But strangest of all, Oshima apparently modelled Mr. Needle Mouse's positive attitude on none other than Bill Clinton, who at the time was still the governor of Arkansas, but also a massively... shit. No, it was gonna happen. I always get hit in this fucking zone from one thing or another. Look at the goddamn place. How can you not get tagged when your default movement speed is a couple of miles per hour shy of ripping a hole in the fucking sound barrier? Fucking, I don't care. Mr. Needlemouse's positive attitude. That's what I've got right here. Which was based on Bill motherfucking Clinton, governor of Arkansas, but a hugely popular personality in US politics who would go on to... Oh, well, you know, 10 years down the line, he probably wouldn't have been Sega's first choice to launch a mascot off of. Let's leave it at that. Alright, check this out. This made me want to kill myself as a child. Hey! It's Dr. fucking Robotnik! Fight me, you tubby Charles Bronson looking mother... Oh, you son of a bitch! You jumped on the button! I in no way expected that to happen. I didn't even know you could jump, you hippo ass... What? No. No, this isn't... You haven't sent me back to... You filthy balloon-gutted fuck! He sent us back to the goddamn Labyrinth Zone! It's the goddamn... There is a very cheeky shortcut you can take right at the start of this stage to cut this entire ordeal off at the balls by falling in front of the button-activated slope as it descends. You hop over a few pits and the whole thing's over in about 30 seconds, but... I'm not much into shortcuts, unless it's Echo the Dolphin. I'm flipping the bird to the city of forever as I swim the fuck past it. Oh, to have a dolphin friend to pilot me through this soggy ruin. Did you know Yuji Naka only came up with the concept of crippling Sonic in the water because he didn't know hedgehogs could swim? In his admittedly frail defense, hedgehogs aren't native to Japan, although they are sporadically kept as pets, so Yuji Naka was probably about as familiar with them as he was with the chupacabra, but come on, man! Do the basic ground level research into the animal that's starring in your game. Maybe poor old Yuji got tricked by some sailors he asked down at the docks. Oh yeah, I seen a hedgehog. They're as big as a man and blue all over. They wear shoes and gloves, and they'll leap 10 feet in the air and crush your skull like a sparrow's egg. The hell you say? Oh, have they any weaknesses? Aye, lad, the hedgehog, you see, he loves gold, crystals and shiny things. Can't resist. Carries so much of his loot around with him that he's useless in the water. Weighs him down, keeps him there. What about walruses? Have you ever seen a walrus? Oh, lad, lava-proof, saber-toothed devil seals we calls them. Speaking of the supposedly innocent animals piloting Robotnik's still murder legion, there is actually a Sega veteran among them. Very early company mascot of sorts that has been around since as far back as 1984. It is, of course, Flicky the Bluebird, who first appeared in a self-titled arcade game that was a thinly veiled emulation of Namco's Mappy from the year before. Sega made the ingenious decision to tug at wandering arcade customers' heartstrings by forcing Flicky to protect her kids from hungry cats. Ah, fuck off! Whereas Mappy was about a mouse that was also a cop stealing back loot from some sort of family of gangster cats. Alrighty, final zone. Let's have it, son. Nothing in here except a greasy little man pig that's managed to butter himself up and squeeze into the pistons of one of his machines. No rings here to help you if you get hit, but this isn't exactly a battle for the ages or anything. Just like every other encounter with him, you gotta knock Robotnik 8 times to beat him. The only real complication here is that the crushing pistons he drops down in are, to an extent, randomized, so you're never really 100% certain where he's coming down next. Best thing you can do is hedgehog your bets and mill about in the middle of the chamber. The pistons move slightly before they come all the way down, so the fleet-thumbed among you will be able to get into the right position. But between appearances you'll have to hop out the way of the electric death balls there too, but there's plenty of space. Now there is a hideous fucking glitch in this fight that punishes anybody who reckons they're being clever by landing— have that shit put in! By landing 2 hits on Robotnik in one go. Let's give him the proper send-off here. Get out of it! You can show mercy there and leave him to flee. Changes absolutely nothing, no special ending or thumbs up from Jesus or anything, so, you know, why would you? But, there's our Chaos Emerald collection, about to do something ominous. I've murdered us all! Oh no, it's just made all the plants ludicrously big. Awesome. Don't point, it's fucking rude. Always felt like Sonic was trying to warn me of some intruder sneaking up behind me with a length of garrote wire there, but if you finish the game without all the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic just kinda stares at you for a couple of seconds like you told him a racist joke. You still get the finger pose though. He just can't help himself. So this final boss glitch, this is one of the few that actually happened to me one time. Basically, if you manage to hit Robotnik twice on the final blow, the hit counter rolls over to 255, which is then the amount of attacks you've got to land on him to beat him. Proper boss now! Proper fight now, son! I think the worst glitches in this game usually came from the camera not being able to keep up with you if you went too fast. You may have noticed in this playthrough that I barely used the spin dash move at all, and that's honestly because there's so many places it can screw you over by outrunning the camera and inadvertently creating kill zones in the top and bottom of the screen where there are none. Sonic outruns reality. He'll murder us all, you mark my words. He'll open a fucking rift and in we'll go. Masato Nakamura. Interesting story behind this. Dude was in a Japanese new wave band called Dreams Come True. He still is, to my knowledge. When he got hired to compose the music for Sonic the Hedgehog, and consequently, you hear both this game and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 trading musical pieces with the band. The theme from Starlight Zone is basically a sped up instrumental of a song called Kasurayubi no Keshin. The track Sweet 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 is actually the ending theme to Sonic 2 with lyrics on top of it. And it was actually at a Dreams Come True concert that Sonic and the other characters were publicly revealed for the very first time. That about does it for this week, Crusaders. Just the shot of Robotnik losing his shit to... No juggling today, fatty. Kinda looks like he's trying to end his own life, though.